What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire update video. In this video, I will discuss HBO's announcement regarding their upcoming Game of Thrones series about the adventures of Duncan Egg. Unfortunately, HBO has decided to follow in the footsteps of George R.R. Martin by delaying A Night of the Seven Kingdoms until early next year. That's right, they will not be releasing the Duncan Egg series this fall. The show has now been delayed until 2026. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will be asking how or why this happened. How the hell did they fall behind schedule with a series that only has 6 episodes in its first season? Well, you're not the only one, and as of right now, HBO hasn't officially announced why they are delaying the show. All we know is Variety was able to get a screenshot of the trailer revealing a 2026 release date. Although HBO hasn't said why they decided to go in this direction, it hasn't stopped us fans from speculating. I want to show you what Daniel Roman wrote in his article because I believe he did a great job of explaining what might have happened. According to Entertainment Weekly, the show is now looking at an early winter release date next year. This likely means that they will release it at the very beginning of the new year, in January or February. Obviously, we're very sad about this new information. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is based on George R.R. Martin's Duncan Egg Novellas that follows the Honorable Knight Ser Duncan the Tall and his squire on various adventures around the Seven Kingdoms. It's a lighter, more fun sort of story than Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, and since HBO originally said it was releasing sometime in 2025, I've been really looking forward to watching it. I think most of us were excited about that original release date because that meant we would get a new Game of Thrones series every year. We would no longer have to wait roughly 2 years for a new season of a show set in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. Now that they have this new release date, there will be no Game of Thrones show airing this year on HBO. Ever since A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was announced, I'd been figuring that HBO wanted to release a new season of a Game of Thrones show every year, alternating from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and its other Thrones show, House of the Dragon. Everything did seem to be lining up that way, back when we thought the Duncan Egg show would release this year. House of the Dragon only started filming its 3rd season a few months back, so it likely won't air until 2026, or God's forbid, 2027. There's a lot of reasons why I don't like this new direction, but perhaps the most annoying is that it doesn't feel motivated by what's best for the show. In fact, I'd argue it may be even to its detriment. Instead, this feels like a top-down business decision to bank content so that HBO and its streaming service don't run dry by next year. Sometimes when a show gets delayed, it's because they're not a shiny finished product just yet that's ready to be released to the masses. With A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, we essentially know for a fact that is not the case. The series wrapped filming in September, and it only has 6 episodes. Not to mention, George R.R. Martin wrote in his blog back in January that he had seen all 6 episodes, and only the final 2 were rough cuts, meaning they weren't finished with the VFX or editing. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is a much smaller and more budget-friendly show than either of its sister series. There are no dragons, no armies, and no massive sets, certainly not like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. Now, the first season is adapting George R.R. Martin's novella The Hedge Knight, which is set almost entirely at a tournament in the Reach at Ashford Meadow. Yes, there are some spectacular battles, and I expect the tourney to be grand, but it still won't be anywhere near the size or scale of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. Now, basically what that means is the show would still be ready for its release this fall. They're obviously delaying it for another reason. Last year, Warner Bros. Discovery global streaming chief said at a conference that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was eyeing a late summer 2025 release date. In fact, Variety's own sources announced it would be late 2025. The writing on the wall seemed clear. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms would be in a finished enough state to air this year. And it undoubtedly is. Here's where we get to the issue. Along with this delay announcement, it was also revealed that HBO's streaming service Max is being renamed, back to HBO Max. Yes, the same name it had before Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav got the genius idea to combine the service with the failing Discovery Plus app. I will never understand why they dropped HBO from their name and logo. It was the one thing that we associated with greatness. No one knew what the hell Max was. HBO was the brand name, yet for some reason they thought it was a good idea to erase its legacy with their stupid rebranding. This was despite the fact that HBO Max was one of the few services to actually win a loyal audience during the streaming wars. Who could have seen this reversal coming? The evolution has been influenced by the consumer needs, and the fact that no consumer today is saying they want more content, but most of them are saying they want better content. That's according to HBO's statement via The Hollywood Reporter. The general thrust is that it seems like things are in a state of disarray at HBO's parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery, and it's now attempting to course correct after realizing its strategy hurt the HBO Max brand. And A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms may or may not be part of that solution, but it seems very likely to me that this delay is being done to fill a void in HBO's schedule for early next year. After all, it doesn't really have any other big shows in the genre television space coming that soon. The Last of Us likely won't even start filming Season 3 until next year, and House of the Dragon Season 3 is still far too early in production to make any solid guesses about when it might air. Now, before all this, I would have said that House of the Dragon at least was coming next year, but now, who knows? At the end of the day, it's not all doom and gloom like it may sound. Assuming they are actually releasing Duncan Egg at the beginning of 2026, we will only have to wait an extra 3 or 4 months before we see the show. So while it may suck that we are faced with yet another delay in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe, it's not the end of the world. I was just really hoping the shows would offset each other, that way we would get a new season of either Duncan Egg or House of the Dragon every year. Anyone saying it's better to wait is foolish. It's not like they're actually using the extra 3 or 4 months to make the show better. I actually saw someone say, but we don't want the show to release now because that just means it will be over sooner, and we'll have to be right back to waiting for the next season. So I guess their solution to avoiding the long wait is by not releasing the show, therefore the waiting doesn't end. We don't want to have to wait for the new season, so let's delay it so we have to wait for the new season. I'm sorry, but that math ain't mathin'. All jokes aside, I do understand what they meant by that, but I still don't agree. Now, if the Duncan Egg show releases at the beginning of the year, and House of the Dragon releases at the very end of the year, it will still sort of feel like we're getting a new season every year, even if the gap is actually only 9 months or whatever it will be. I am hoping we start to see some leaked footage from the sets of House of the Dragon. They've already been filming for a few months, so I expect to start to see some leaked photos and videos very soon. I'm gonna start making some House of the Dragon videos in the coming weeks while we wait for the new season. So while this might not be the worst news regarding Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, I still think HBO is making a mistake. And I'm sure they will attack my videos with copyright claims just for saying this. They always aggressively come for my videos whenever I give them even the slightest criticism. Videos that were once unaffected for 5 or 6 years are suddenly out of bounds now that I've had more to say about HBO and their executives. They want to silence me by hitting me in the wallet, but I won't stop sharing my thoughts, even if that means it affects any relationship I might have had with the network. And this is why they'll never give me early access to the episodes, because they're afraid of a negative review. This is also why you no longer see my intro in the videos, as well as any scenes from Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. They've made themselves very clear in the last 6 months. If I'm going to say something negative about their network, executives, or writers, I better not have a single second of copyrighted material in that video. Otherwise, I will feel their wrath. Now, the funny thing is, I still love HBO and their service. I still think they make the greatest shows on television. But that doesn't mean everything they do is flawless. I mean, hell, none of us are. I don't understand why they are so afraid of someone saying that. Anyways, with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Daniel Roman for writing that article. I thought he did a great job of summing up most of our thoughts and concerns. I will link that below if you want to read it again. Make sure you subscribe if you want to stay up to date on what's happening with Duncan Egg, House of the Dragon, The Winds of Winter, and so much more. As always, I want to thank all of you for watching another video. I hope all of you have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.